Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you're ready to take on your next paying clients, I have good news. My free 4 Basics of Client Attraction and How to Stand Out class is live at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction. In the class, you're going to learn the top 2 traits I recommend for most coaches and entrepreneurs if they really want to turn this into a career. You're going to learn how you can build demand for your services and stop getting crickets on your posts. You're going to learn the sales roadmap I used to improve my sales conversion rate and help my clients do the same. And you're going to learn so much more. So go to haileyrowe.com/client-attraction and get your copy of the class today. A web designer. She is a Squarespace educator and a mom of 2 toddlers, and she's passionate about helping creative entrepreneurs build high-converting, SEO-driven websites and doing it quickly. So if you are somebody who's a perfectionist, she is on a mission to make your website strategy simple and help you, get out there and stop delaying. And she also helps you attract clients without the Instagram hustle with your strong website. Whether through her VIP days, courses, or content, Bekah is here to be your biggest cheerleader and guiding you through ranking on Google and all of the things. So welcome. Thank you for being here. And why don't you just kick off by sharing how did you get into wanting to learn about SEO and web design and all the things?
Yeah, so I think probably similar to a lot of entrepreneurs, I started off wanting to leave the 9 to 5, but I wasn't sure exactly what that looked like. So I just titled my business Rebecca Reed Creative, and I was like, I'll do something creative. I don't know. And I did a lot of photography, logo design, website, social media management, and really just loved websites the most. So that's kind of the avenue I took around 2018. And since then, that's been my passion. And in 2020, I pivoted to website in a days because pandemic and people were looking for quicker, cheaper services. And I've loved that service. And throughout all of it, I've always been passionate about blogging. And recently, past like 3 years, more YouTube as well, because it's also a SEO tool. But I kind of just did it because I liked it. I didn't necessarily, not many people read my blog, but I started to realize this is working for me. Like, this is allowing me to not have to market myself constantly on social media. I took 2 maternity leaves with both my kids, and I was able to consistently get clients to my courses and things like that, all because of what I'd done on the back end. And so that made me really passionate about just teaching other, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs to, be able to implement SEO, easy, practical tips, tactics on their website so that it can do the back end stuff for them.
I love it. That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about if you were working with a coach who wants to use your SEO strategy. Tell me a little bit more about what does that look like?
Yeah. So the basic SEO strategy that I just love to teach people, again, I didn't realize it was a system until I just started doing it. And a systems expert was like, this is a thing, Bekah. I was like, oh, okay. But what I do is I focus on my pillar main content. And so if you're a coach, yes, I know Instagram is fun. It gives you the dopamine hit. I totally get it. And if that's your main platform, that's totally fine. I'm not saying get off it, but definitely consider how can you make your website rank higher? And the way to do that is blogging, simply because there's only so many pages you can have on your website. I mean, if maybe you have a sales page or, but you have 5 to 10 pages. And then from there, the way that you add pages is by blogging. And so just focusing on creating quality content. I know there's a lot of talk and buzz around AI and how that's going to affect SEO and all that. But really, if you're creating quality content, Google will move you up in the rankings. And if you're just focusing on creating content that answers the search intent of whatever the person is searching, that's what's going to make your content rank higher. So I always say, like, don't get bogged down when you're writing a blog. Just write it from your heart, like, whatever you're wanting to tell your person. And that takes you the bulk of your time. And then from there, push it out to multiple channels. And I'm not an advocate of being on every social media platform because that's exhausting. But I am an advocate of having every social media platform. And you don't need to know the strategy behind every single one, but take that blog post, and you can even go into ChatGPT. This is what I've been doing recently, and just copying my whole blog post that I wrote, my own words, right? I just copied my whole blog post, I put it in ChatGPT, and I say, create a LinkedIn post. I don't know LinkedIn strategies, and I don't necessarily want to learn it right now, so it's not my focus. So then it just creates a LinkedIn post, but it's pushing it out to those people, which is not the same audience that I have on Instagram. I'll say, okay, create a Facebook post, creates me a Facebook post. I usually will create 2 graphics in Canva. That's it. So I create a horizontal and a vertical. I usually try to use Pinterest size because that's a search engine platform that I enjoy using as well. So then I have that going out to Pinterest, but you can also use that graphic on Instagram as well. So I have this little acronym that helps me in my head, and it's Pigful. So Pigfel. So I post it on Pinterest, Instagram stories. Sometimes I'll create like a reel, but that takes extra time and effort. So unless I have a low work week, I'm probably not making a reel about it. Just putting on my stories. I use the graphic I created for Pinterest. It's not a perfect size. Who cares? Then G is Google Business Listing. So if you don't have a Google Business Listing, even if you're a coach, you're probably thinking, what? Like, I'm not a brick and mortar. Get a Google Business Listing because Google likes to see that you're using their stuff. So you can put the territory that you serve as your state or as the whole United States. I will say, if you put like a smaller area, you have a better chance of ranking higher on a Google Business Listing. If you get more reviews, you have a better chance of ranking higher. But another way to get yourself ranking higher on that, map, which is at the top of Google, is simply by just pushing out this content to their Google Business Listing. And it's just like creating a Facebook post. It's very easy. So then PIGF is Facebook. And then email marketing. If you have an email list, send it out to them. And then L is LinkedIn. So that's kind of my strategy that I do. And it sounds like a lot, but really to like the content creation takes a little time. But then pushing it out to those platforms takes me like 5 to 20 minutes.
Not bad. Nice. Okay. So for somebody who wants to start blogging and maybe they don't have a lot of web traffic right now and they're trying to use SEO, but maybe it hasn't taken off yet. Mm-hmm. What are some suggestions you have for, how do they start to grow their blog aside from just posting it? And what should they be doing with the blog to make sure that they are making the most out of it and it is SEO optimized?
Yeah. So the first thing is figuring out keyword phrases that people would probably use to find you. And as you are figuring out that phrase, so let's say you are a coach for moms, that phrase, like motherhood coach, probably is pretty hard to rank for. So think about, can you make it a little bit longer? It's called a long tail keyword. And the advantage of figuring out a longer keyword is that, so maybe it's like Christian motherhood coach or whatever, is one, it's probably easier to rank for. But 2, if you get more specific, usually the person using that keyword is more apt to buy, like they're closer in the buyer journey. So I always say figure out like a couple keyword phrases. You don't need a ton. And then, especially if you're starting out. And then what you're going to do, usually how I write my blogs is I just write my blog how I talk. But go about writing your blogs. And then I usually go in and say, okay, where can I super organically add this keyword phrase or a variation? Google's smart. So if you do the words in a different order, that's fine. You don't want to stuff it all over your page. You get knocked for that. But just organically add it in. And then you have different fonts, different headings with your website. And so using a heading one, H1, is a great place to put that keyword phrase. So just kind of seeing like, okay, what would be a good heading to kind of break this blog up? Also, that just helps the reader, right? If you have a long blog, it's hard to like look at that long thing. So think about, how can you break it up? How can you make it scannable? And then as you're breaking it up with these headings or maybe bullet points or whatever it is, try to figure out like where can I add in that keyword phrase. And then I try to keep things minimal and easy. So even if you can only blog once a month, that's 12 extra pages on your website by the end of the year. So that's helpful. So just do what is attainable for you. If it is every week, amazing, go for it. But if that just sounds like too much, do one a month and try to add in those keywords, and you will see yourself, especially if you've searched those keywords. And I use a program called Uber Suggest. It's free. And when you type in that keyword phrase, so Christian motherhood coach or whatever that keyword phrase is, it'll give you a SEO difficulty and a keyword volume. I try to make sure that SEO difficulty, it's SD is what it says. Make sure that SEO difficulty is between 15 and 30, just because that's telling you people are actually searching for it. And it's not going to be too hard to rank for. And then the volume, you just want to make sure people are actually searching. So above 100, I would say. And if you find, just kind of do a little bit of research on that. And again, like set a timer, do it for 20 minutes. You don't need to go crazy. You can always change your keyword phrase like down the road as you're writing more blog posts, but just going out and doing it is like, progress over perfection is kind of my approach to most things. So that's also my approach to blogging.
Nice. Okay. And if somebody is using like Squarespace, because I know WordPress has Yoast SEO, for example, which is like a plugin or something you can add to your website for when you're blogging, and it will tell you like, hey, here are some changes we recommend if you want a better chance of ranking in Google. Is there something like that for Squarespace or other platforms?
So there's not really plugins on Squarespace like there is on WordPress, or if you're designing your website on Show It, you use a WordPress blog. And so I would just say with that, I mean, you can always use outside tools like copy and paste your blog into they're slipping my name. The names are slipping me, but if you Google them, I'm sure you can find. There's free tools you can use online. Honestly, if you're just being consistent in blogging, and again, making sure that they're scannable, I love to embed videos into my blog posts, because if somebody clicks that video, and let's say it's a 7-minute video, and they watch the whole thing, they're on that page for like 7 to 10 minutes. That is an extremely long time. And so that tells Google, wow, this must be a really valuable website page, but also like whole website, right? And so that helps you to rank higher. If you don't have a corresponding video, it doesn't even need to be your video. Like if it's a relevant video from someone else, put it into the blog post. Add photos, like that's all. And when you add those photos, if you can, retitle them so that you can have like an alt tag on the photo and a title. I usually will have the photo, I download it onto my computer, I compress it so it's less than 1 megabyte. I retitle it. So you would title it, Christian coach for entrepreneurs or whatever it is. And then I upload it to my platform. And then whether you're on WordPress, Show It, Squarespace, all these platforms, you can create like an alt description. And I would say with that, like screen readers use that. So I always try to be transparent to what the photo is. Like you're explaining the image. If it's a picture of me sitting in front of my computer with a cup of coffee, where you put that description, like you would put that whole description, but you can try to add in keywords as well. So if it's a photo of me, I am a website designer. So I could put website designer sitting at her computer with coffee, and it's also bringing in those keywords. So again, these are just more like, I don't want to overwhelm the audience, but these are more things. If you want, you can do them. But again, if you're just blogging consistently and putting in heading ones, a lot of other things that Yoast will say, like, it'll give you like a green means you're good to go. So if it's not green, like just look at some of the things that it'll recommend. And a lot of times what it says is like, your paragraphs are too long, your sentences are too long, like make it more skimmable, more readable. You need more headings, different things like that are like a lot of the tips, kind of what I'm giving you.
Yeah. And you mentioned for the images, you can put a description on it and you can put an alt tag. And just for anybody listening, what is an alt tag? And is that, you're saying that you should have this on your photo so that Google, when it's doing like image search, it would come up for your keywords, correct?
Yeah, so you kind of have two, like if you go on Squarespace or Show It or whatever, there's two like texts that you can put on your image. One is the title of the image. So that's for me, it might be Spokane dash website dash designer dot JPEG, because most images are 123 ABC JPEG. No one's searching that on Google. So that is that title, and that's what's going to be drawn for the image search. But then you're also given an opportunity to potentially add keywords, and that's for the screen readers, and that's more explaining the image.
Got it. Okay, cool. And I personally have a podcast. And so what I do on my blog is I'll have podcast show notes and put the podcast with it, the video and the episode. But I'm curious, do you have any advice for people who have a podcast and they kind of want to incorporate that as their blog? What kind of, is it the same practices that they should be putting in the blog for the, like, should they make a blog about the podcast? Should they give away everything that's in the episode in writing? Should we not? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, podcasts are amazing. They are great opportunities to have lots of keyword phrases and blog. You can, you get your transcript. So usually what I would say, if you're trying to make this the most streamlined and easy approach, download the transcript. That's usually, a lot of podcast platforms will come up with that for you. And it might be kind of like incoherent, it's not very friendly. Just put it into ChatGPT. That would be my suggestion.
That's a good idea.
Because it takes a lot of time. Like I used to do that, like take the transcript and then create it into an SEO friendly blog post. That took me a long time, and that client had to pay me quite a bit of money to do that. I'm not about AI stealing people's jobs, but this is a really nice resource for you. So I would just say, and again, you're not copying other people's words. It's taking the words I am saying, or the words you are saying. You put it into ChatGPT and say, make this a coherent blog post. And you can even say, like, focusing on this particular keyword, if you can organically add it in, and it'll create a pretty decent outline. And so, yes, to answer your other question, I probably would give away all of what's said, because generally speaking, people are going to listen to the podcast. They're not going to read the blog. So really all the blog is doing for you is helping the SEO of your website. I know, like, yeah, maybe some people are going to read that full post and not listen on podcast, but generally people aren't going to read that, because that can be long. That can be a really long blog post. So I would say put the whole thing, embed obviously the podcast audio at the top of the blog, so that they can listen to it there. And then, of course, at the end, put how they can connect with you, put the like, subscribe, all that. That can all be in the blog post, and really drawing attention. Like at the end of every blog post, I always try to put a call to action, usually to a freebie of mine. And I usually will make it like a big image and just implant that image and then make it a clickable link. And so I would just say, like, making a big banner image that says like and subscribe, if that's your main goal, putting that at the bottom, so that you can then have them go to your podcast.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so using your blog or podcast or page to drive action to your email lead magnet to capture some emails is a good call to action. And what about, you mentioned YouTube as well, and that's a search engine. So how do you use the same Uber, I think you said it was called like Uber Suggest tool? Does that work for YouTube too? Or is there a different tool you use to find keywords for YouTube, or what? And I don't even know if that's something you talk about, but I'm curious if you know.
Yeah. No, so when I am using Uber Suggest, it's primarily to figure out what are the main keywords I want to rank for. So, website designer for life coaches. Okay, what's the SEO difficulty of that? Is anybody searching for that? So that's primarily what I'm using it for. I'm not really using it for my YouTube, like figuring out the most ideal keywords for YouTube. If I want to figure out, like, my YouTube strategy is slightly different. If I want to figure out what people are searching on YouTube related to DIYing a Squarespace website or whatever, I'll put that into the search bar, kind of like with Pinterest. If you put it into the search bar, it'll pull up, other things people are using. that's more of my strategy. You can, of course, get so many tools to help you come up with ideal talks to talk about. Honestly, for my YouTube videos, a lot of times, which maybe this isn't strategic, but it has been what I've been doing the past 4 years. I get asked a lot, like, hey, how do I do this weird thing on WordPress? And I'm like, oh, this is how you do it. And I'll send them that. I use Tela, but it's like Loom. I'll send them that Loom video, and then I just turn it into a YouTube video.
Nice.
That's kind of my,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if it's the best strategy in the world, but I'm not trying to necessarily grow my YouTube channel. That's not a goal of mine. My
Right.
goal is like just to answer questions when people have it. So that's kind of my
Right.
strategy.
Yeah. And I agree. Like, that's how a lot of my podcast episodes come about, is because I'll get a question from a client, or I'll hear on a discovery call someone struggling with XYZ. And so I'll make a piece of content about it. So using your network of, what are you hearing from clients? What are people asking of you that they really need help with? That's a great idea. And chances are they're not the only person with that question or problem.
Right.
So one of the other things that you mentioned is that you're a mom of toddlers, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you, any, tips for how you have made this work while you have toddlers and you're very busy?
Yeah, it's been a lot of grace and adjusting. Like, I feel so when I started my business way back in 2018, the intention was that I would then be able to stay home with my kids and work. And then I had my daughter, and she was a colicky baby who constantly needed to be on me, and I couldn't get any work done. And so it was, I need her to go to daycare once a week. And so it was once a week daycare. And now I have two. And so it's just like I feel like every 6 months I just reevaluate, do I need more daycare? Like, am I still passionate about my business? If the answer is yes, okay, great. I might need to increase daycare. And so right now what that looks like, I have a almost 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they are in daycare 2 times a week, and they go to grandparents once a week. So I have 3 half days a week that I can work. My husband works quite a bit, so I can't really do it at at night or whatever. I probably could, but I'm too exhausted. Just doesn't work well for me to do things at night. So that's when I crank out most of my work. I'm doing about 15 to 20 hours a week usually. And yeah, that's the current balance, but it could look very different in 6 months. And I just try to give myself that space to reevaluate and just, usually it's like, do I still love my business? Do I still enjoy it? If the answer is yes, okay, well then what can we do to change so that I can continue to do it?
I love that. Yeah, that's a great idea to reevaluate every 6 months, because your kids are grown up and life probably looks different every 6 months too. So
Yeah.
really smart. Any other advice you'd give to a coach who's like, all right, this sounds really interesting. I do want to leverage SEO. Any other things they should really take into account after listening to this episode?
I mean, the basic things that you hear about when it comes to SEO are, especially in 2025, is mobilely optimized websites. And so just make sure that it looks good on mobile. On most platforms, a lot of platforms, even on Squarespace, you can kind of design the mobile separately. Show it, you definitely can. So just making sure things don't look crazy on mobile is going to help your rankings a ton. And then another thing kind of related to 2025 is, I feel like in the past year, this has become a thing with AI and whatnot, is at the top, it a lot of times answers the question. Like, so if you type in, life coach advice, like I need help with XYZ, there will be AI, like it says, like AI at the top, and it answers the question, which is really awesome for like us as users and not great for us as business owners, because they're no longer clicking on our website to get the question answered. They're just reading the top of page 1 of Google. So the way that you can work around this is structure your content to be like kind of FAQ-ish. And that is, at least what I've noticed, has been what Google will a lot of times pull for that up there. And then they have a link next to, like, wherever they're pulling it, they have a link that does link to your website so they can click more. So just think about, like, when you're writing, like, is there a way you can make this kind of snippet friendly that maybe Google would pull? And then answering common questions is actually a really great way to rank higher. And so you can do this on blog posts. Obviously, that's probably the easier way, but think about even like you can do this on your services page, like create a FAQ, answering questions. I think being generous with your knowledge is always really, really wise. And so a blog that's done really well for me recently is, and usually it takes a while for things to rank, like 6 months minimum to really start ranking for a keyword. So just so you know, but I had a blog about Shopify website designers rank so fast. And I was like, okay, let's study this. What is happening here? And what happened is I think a lot of people are searching for Shopify website designers with an S, and a lot of Shopify website designers might use that keyword phrase, but it just goes right to their website page. That doesn't answer the person's question because it's just leading them to their own service. They want like a whole list of them. So when I wrote a blog post that was like, because I kept getting asked, hey, do you know how to Shopify designer? Do you know how I don't do it. Okay. So I just made a whole list of like, hey, here's the like 10 female Shopify designers I love. Here's what makes, this one's more pricey. This one's a little bit cheaper. Like I just really tried to analyze it. And that blog just shot to the top. So think about like blogs kind of like that you could write that answer questions and are like, you're focusing on search intent, right? So it's valuable content and it's answering their actual question and not just selling your service. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Great advice. So where can everybody connect with you after the episode?
So I have my website, RebeccaReedCreative.com. The blog has, and the YouTube channel, which is YouTube.com/Rebecca Reed. Lots of SEO, Squarespace, show it tips. And I have a freebie, which again, you can link it below. That just is an SEO checklist that you can go through and just the basics of what you need on your website to get it ranking. And then from there, I would say start blogging.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all these great tips. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.